November 28th, special meeting of the Albion City Council. It's 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started. I'm calling this meeting to order. We will begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. We will now say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Reed. Here. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
French.
Here.
And Mayor Brown.
Here. We will begin. Are there any comments from council members this evening? Councilmember Brown.
I wanted to ask Dr. Mitchell, I have like 5 blank pages in my, okay, thank you.
Are there any other, Councilmember Lawler?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I did invite some people to come tonight and share some information that they may want out of this presentation, and I'm glad that they could make it. Can I ask how many people from 4th Precinct is here tonight? Just 3? Okay. Well, I encourage everyone to state whatever it is your concern is, and I thank you again for coming out.
Councilmember French.
Thank you. On a different note, I bring sad news to the community of Albion. Rosalind Jones, who was a consultant for the city of Albion for the last 6 or 9 months or so, working very hard on the comprehensive master plan, has passed away on Christmas Day at the age of 57. Rosalind was a Cass Technical High School graduate and a Michigan State University graduate, earning a bachelor's degree in public administration and a master's degree in business administration in marketing. She was a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and known for connecting people, and has been supported and has supported numerous friends with her training, with her support. And she leaves behind a whole host of people, including this city and the city workers who worked with her to build the master plan behind. Visitation is Thursday, which is tomorrow, at the Paradise Funeral Home and Chapel up on Miller Road in Lansing, Michigan. The funeral is on Friday morning at 11 at Mount Hope Church on Crates Road in Lansing. Flower donations are being collected by the city, and so if you should drop those donations off to Stacy Levin in the city manager's office. She and I and others are going to be driving up Friday morning for the funeral. So again, it's really sad. I got to know Rosalind when she first came on board and just found her to be engaging and enthusiastic and innovative in her thinking, a real team builder and a real smart woman, and have a great deal of respect for her. I'm just really shocked at her passing. So if you could keep her family in your prayers, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Spicer.
Mayor, it's appropriate to address the reason why we're here right now.
That's going to be,
Later.
well, we have a time for discussion under the
Gotcha.
agenda item. But
Okay.
yes, Councilmember Reed.
I second what Dr. French said. I've been knowing Rosalind for 17 years. She was a member of the church that I went to in Lansing until she went to another church when she was working on her doctoral dissertation. I was thinking, and I did speak to the mayor about that, if it would be possible for the total council to go to the funeral on Friday. I think it would express our feelings for her very nicely.
Thank you. Are there any other council comments at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we will go into, I guess I should say, item for individual discussion. Agenda item A, request. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the most important thing, right? Citizens' comments. Persons addressing the city council shall limit their comments to the agenda item only.
and to no more than 5 minutes, and we're requesting proper decorum. Are there any citizens' comments?
Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for holding this special session. Again, Shane Williamson, 1210 Burn Street. I'm also a member of the team at Star Commonwealth, bringing the resolution that you're considering tonight before you. It was advised by the city manager, instead of doing a formal presentation, that we give you an update during citizens' comments on the progress of the grant. As you can see, it is almost complete. The narrative has been given to you. You can see some of the edits that we've made between the last time we gathered here and now, to include some of the concerns that the council had expressed at our last work session and your last meeting. We're very excited to be moving forward this grant request to the federal government, to be able to bring resources back to the community, to have a vital discussion around healthcare. And I want to stress inclusive. So here with me tonight, this evening, is Elizabeth Carey, the CEO of Star Commonwealth, and I'm going to yield the rest of my citizens' comment time to her to make some brief statement to you all this evening.
I'm not as tall as him, so I'm hoping I don't have to bend down. I think that would hurt. So good evening. Thank you very much for sharing a little bit of time with me. I am Elizabeth Carey. I'm the president and CEO at Star Commonwealth. And I just wanted to express the excitement on behalf of Star Commonwealth on the opportunity that is in front of us. We have an opportunity with a lot of groups and a lot of organizations to bring some resources to plan for our community, to ensure that we have a comprehensive way of improving and meeting the healthcare needs of our community. At STAR, we are deeply committed to having an inclusive process that allows us to spend a year, if we receive this grant, planning and bringing all the bodies to the table that need to be there so that we have a really good integrated network of providers and also partners that can help us think about and plan for what our community needs. We know that this planning grant came around really quickly and the application period is very quick. And therefore, we know we don't have all the partners that we need at the table. It is hopefully going to be comprehensive enough with the partners that we have now to be able to apply and then spend the year adding everyone that we need to make sure that we're having a deep network conversation to improve the health here in our community. Star Commonwealth, as you know, is deeply committed to the community of Albion. We've been here for 103 years, and we are planning our next 100 years. We're renowned not only in the state of Michigan, but in all 50 states and in over 60 countries for our strength-based approach to working with children and healing pain and helping families find their resilience. Our next challenge is to bring what we know works with children and families to communities and see how we can also help communities with vibrancy and with opportunities. And this is one of those opportunities that's come across our screen and radar that we really want to be able to bring to the city of Albion and to the community. So on behalf of Star Commonwealth, and thank you to Shane for all the work that he's done, not only in the grant work, but in front of you, talking about and explaining what this opportunity is. But as I mentioned, we're extremely excited to be able to be a part of this effort, and we really look forward to working with the city and all of our other partners to plan to improve the opportunities for healthcare here in Albion. Thank you.
Oh, and I should say, if you come up front and have a comment, please state your name and your address so the clerk and Clerk Domingo can enter that into the record. So,
Nydia Wolf, former director, executive director for the Albion Healthcare Alliance, and also I live at 409 Irwin Ave. I appreciate the council being willing to listen to this again. That says a lot about what you're going through. I wondered if, well, let me give you a little background history. Quite often, we stayed within the county when we made choices for groups that we went with as far as health care, mainly because Calhoun County, we found, had several opportunities for forming relationships that we could not find in, say, Jackson County. So I want to give you a little bit of that history. Also, are you familiar with when and why the Albion Hospital was closed?
I am.
Okay. You know that Foot Hospital at one point had bought it, and we went through a big fundraiser and had a part of the building that was added on, and then they ended up closing it right after that. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that history and why we pretty much stayed with Calhoun County and some of the organizations that we have relationships with within the county. Not to say that things haven't changed and that we can't forge new relationships, but I just wanted to mention that that was why things had happened the way it did years ago. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Spicer. I live at 27909 Condit Road, Albion, Michigan. And I would like to speak to you in support of the grant, as I have been a party to and a member of planning grants, the federally qualified health center that was brought here. We brought it here through a federally qualified, brought that center here with a grant. Had it not been for the opportunity to have that planning grant, I don't think that that would have materialized, because we didn't have the funds to do all of the work that needed to be done to get that in place. And that happened when Harvard Industry closed in 2002. And as Nydia said earlier, I remember when the hospital closed, and I happened to be on that board at the time, and we were not aware of, after all the money and all of the contributions that had been given, we weren't aware that Foot had any intentions of closing that hospital. We did all that work and collected almost, I think, about $900,000 that we added on, and then they closed it. Also, that, I don't know how many of you were able to see that healthcare center that was at the high school previous high school. There was a beautiful edifice. That was the result. Anybody ever see that? That was the result of a planning grant. And it was generous. And we needed it because we needed the time, we needed the talent of the people that were available to us at the state. They not only, when you have a planning grant, they will come in and assist you. They offer a lot of support in, when they offer you the opportunity for this grant. And we were able to get that grant and build a beautiful health center. We were able to get labor in there, free labor. We got labor out of Lansing, out of Battle Creek, all over to help us put that center together. So much so until people were there on Sundays helping us, because the state was coming in on Monday for an approval, and they were there laying, I always forget what they call that stuff around
Tape,
what was it?
barrier tape.
No, not the barrier tape, the bottom. Cold, what is it, cold face? What is it called? Cold face, yeah, around the bottom on Sunday, so that we could pass that inspection on Monday. And I would say to you that that, even though it didn't last, was there, it wasn't anybody's fault that closed, that were recipients or participants or people that it helped. But the time that it was there, it really was a benefit to the community and to those children that it served. And I tell you that you'd be amazed at the amount of support you get when you have a planning grant, because all those things and those indicators that you don't know about, that you're not aware of, they bring it to you. They will support you with that. They give you that information. They provide it to you. Now, I work with the federal. That was with the Federally Qualified Health Center, and I also work with the state. And I can tell you that it is a worthwhile endeavor, and that if the benefit to our community is to have health care for our constituents, it is worth it. It absolutely is worth it. And $100,000 is not a lot of money. When we did the federal one, we had even more than $100,000. I think it was close to $200,000. And I served as executive director prior to media of the Albion Healthcare Alliance. I was one of the first ones to serve there. And I worked through that process, and I know how hard it is. I can tell you this, if you don't get your documents in on time, if they're not date stamped, they do not look at them. That's an absolute fact. Terry Langston and I were up there with headaches and taking Tylenol and everything else to get that thing into the state. And we were some happy people when we were awarded that grant. I think that it's worth taking the opportunity to look at and investigate. And you have a lot of time. It doesn't necessarily mean if you get the planning grant, you're gonna get the big grant, because you have to do your job. I thank you.
One step for mankind. My name is Hazel Lyas, 12939 28.5 Mile Road. I've not had a chance to officially congratulate those of you that have recently taken the seats. It's pleasing to see my children taking over. It's a little scary at first, but now that we've called another meeting to try and get the health care online, as I'm hopping along here, you understand how important it might be. I trust you. I'm not in your precinct, but you bet you I've got some pull here and there. So I trust you with my future. So as I sit back to grow old, I want to know that my future's in your hands. Thank you.
Good evening, Mary Slater, 517 East Michigan Avenue. Just want to encourage all of you to support this resolution. This is an opportunity for us to be partners in what's going to happen in Albion. The first year is planning, and if we vote yes, then we can be partners in that planning process. And we can say what we want to have and be part of what the plans eventually will become. Thank you.
Are there any other, okay, Dr. Curtis.
I'm Dr. James Curtis, members of the council, and I'd like to urge everyone to support this resolution because it does represent an opportunity to bring to Albion a very much needed expansion of healthcare resources. And it's important because we already have in place in the process that's developed so far, Albion College, Star Commonwealth, Oaklawn Hospital, and it's important for us to realize that for healthcare services, they are planned and organized in this country on a regional basis. In other words, Calhoun County is the area of reference, and Oaklawn Hospital happens to be the strongest hospital in Calhoun County and is already far along in researching how they can expand their community, the study of community resources that will build a more effective healthcare network in the Calhoun County community. Now, for example, there are some medical conditions, psychiatric conditions involving people of all ages that require immediate care within a matter of minutes, or the person's life is at risk. The nearest facility to save lives in Albion are the facilities that are operated by Oaklawn Hospital. And their emergency clinic is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. But a grant opportunity such as this would allow Oaklawn to expand their facilities to locate one here in Albion in the resources that have already been identified and named. And people in Albion who would otherwise die within a matter of 5 minutes if they didn't get attention for a heart attack or a stroke or a psychiatric disability or an injury or a burn or a number of other sorts of things. We need to have this sort of facility that's in Albion. This grant opportunity is one that could bring that kind of resource here. One other thing I'd like to mention is that we are planning, a group of us here, to develop a group home for pregnant teenage girls who are pregnant and homeless. There will be a facility here in Albion that will become operating within the next few months, within the next year, certainly, that will bring this sort of a resource to Albion. And who are the agencies that have helped to develop it? Star Commonwealth, Albion College. The City Council, in fact, has passed resolutions allowing that to develop. We are licensed, the buildings have been renovated. We're ready to go. We're just waiting for a grant funding that will allow us to hire staff. And Oaklawn Hospital has been so supportive of it that they are giving a member of their nursing staff who will become a member of our staff as soon as the facility opens. I urge that you pass this resolution because it would be a great opportunity for this community.
Oh, Dr. Curtis, can you state your address?
Pardon?
Can you state your address?
1207 Barnes Street, Albion, Michigan.
Thank you.
Mike Behrman, 11016 29 Mile Road, County Commissioner. As a County Commissioner, I was lucky to vote on this proposal at the county level and was very proud to vote yes on it because I saw a way to bring things to the east side of the county. And we have to bring things to the east side of the county. Summit Point, part of Calhoun County, Oaklawn Hospital, it was did a lot of the refinancing and restructuring of their loans through the county. The health department, the Homer, there's just a lot of different organizations that rely on this on the east side of the county. City of Albion needs to be at the table with this. Like one good friend of mine said, you're either at the table or you're on the menu. Absolutely. So we don't want to be on the menu over here in Albion. We want to make sure that we are at the table being able to state what we need to state when everything gets going. I also noticed that there's a few other organizations that are not on it yet, but I'm hoping that we pick up the townships on both sides because we have to work together as a whole community, and whole community is the whole east side of the county. Thank you.
Are there,
You were hoping there wasn't any more.
oh, no.
Bill Dobbins, 15901 East Michigan Avenue, Albion, Michigan. First of all, don't call me out, Mayor, but first of all, I want to publicly thank the council for your support for the Peabody project. It's greatly appreciated. We're going to do everything we can to make you proud of that decision. Also want to publicly thank the DDA in their full support of that. So I realize that's not on the agenda, but I wanted to publicly thank them. Thank everybody for that. I'm speaking in favor of the healthcare grant, and I'm going to take a little different twist on that, in that I don't think there's anybody in this room that's against getting $100,000 for Albion or for healthcare or for healthcare planning. I don't believe anybody's against that. I believe that it's been the process, and I thank Garrett and I thank Mayor Joe before for calling it out when I met with them about transparency, And I suspect that some of this has to do with transparency. I think some of it has to do probably with past issues, whether it be schools. It may have to do with distrust of Marshall and Albion and Oak Lawn and Albion Community Hospital. It may have to do with distrust of Albion and Jackson. It may have distrust to do with blacks and whites. It may have to do with distrust of council and city manager. Those are really the issues that we're trying to deal with here this evening, I believe, and it just gets wrapped up into a healthcare thing that may, and again, I don't know, I'm just assuming that rumors sometimes are accurate, that maybe it wasn't handled properly early on, maybe people weren't brought to the table, maybe it hasn't been all-inclusive, maybe mistakes have been made. Maybe the council has every right to push back to get it right. On the other hand, I don't think there's anybody in this room that wants to lose the opportunity to be involved in a potential $100,000 grant for this community, for this area, for the county, for any of that. So we have our own issues, and I'm excited about the new council. I think there's opportunities to work on those issues, and I hope that we won't get this all rolled up into missing an opportunity to get involved in a $100,000 grant. I don't believe we'll do that. I believe that's why we're here tonight. And if it passes, we'll have work to do. We'll have to back up and maybe get some other things right along the way. But I hope you're going to support it. I believe that you will, and we can move on and work on the real problems that affect our community. Thank you.
Are there any other citizens' comments? Oh, I'm gonna.
Keena Williams, 414 North Huron. I agree with Mr. Dobbins. I don't think there's anyone in this room who doesn't want us to have quality health care here in Albion. I just want to say thank you, which is not the way I started, but I thought, whatever. But thank you for taking the opportunity to come back about this issue. I talked to a number of you. I know a lot of other people did as well. And so I just want to say thank you for taking that step to push and bring this back to the table for the citizens of this community. So thank you.
Are there any other citizens' comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to, just a minute. Well, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Ray King. My address is 3824 Guest Road, Jackson. And Mayor Brown and council members, thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'm the Chief Medical Officer. I'm a physician. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Henry Ford Allegiance Health in Jackson. And I'm not here to either be supportive of or against your resolution and your grant. Just want to be able to share some thoughts I have. I was aware before I came in, and it's obvious that for us to be involved in any shape or form, some level of trust and healing would need to happen between Henry Ford Allegiance Health and the community here, and that's so recognized. What I wanted to be able to address you about is that I recognize that what you have before you is a lot of very hard work. $100,000 is very important, but it takes a lot more resources than that. And Jackson is very much like Albion, and the economic hardships that we've had are very similar. We're just bigger. That's all. I think most, if not all of you, are aware that 9 months ago we became part of the Henry Ford Health System. We are still a not-for-profit organization and we are a resource for the community of Jackson, just part of a larger health system. One of the reasons we chose Henry Ford above all the others that we were exploring, is that Henry Ford cares that we care about our community. And we weren't sure that there was anybody else like that. Our CEO asked, gosh, isn't it important that Henry Ford cares about Jackson? My comment to her was that, yes, but nobody is going to care about Jackson as much as we do. Nobody is going to care about Albion as much as you folks here in this room tonight. And that is definitely recognized. We have done over the past 16 years, I've been the chief medical officer for 9 years. So what happened with Trillium predates me and my role at the hospital, although I've been a family practitioner in Jackson for 32 years. It's my hometown. So I recognize hometown and the importance of hometown to folks. But we have been for over 15 years working as a health improvement organization, working with the county commissioners, working with the health department, working with 30 other stakeholders as a health improvement organization, doing the type of hard work that you are about. And actually, as I look through some of the materials, things that you have been doing here since it sounds like 2003 with the Alliance, very impressive work. And but we do have a wealth of experience in what you are about to do, and we would be honored whether you approve the grant, whether you don't approve the grant. We would be honored to be part of working with you and bringing our resources here to help in the planning if you so desire. We are already in the community. We do have a practice here. Our practices, our employed group, 80 physicians, 50 nurse practitioners and PAs, does report to me, as does our Department of Prevention and Community Health, and all the resources that we have. And so one of my practices is here. We do work with the college through their athletic department at this point. So we do have a presence here in Albion, and we're happy to continue to be involved in any way that you folks desire to have us involved. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'm at your disposal.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens' comments from the audience tonight on agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward to items for individual discussion. Agenda item A, request to approve resolution 2016-70-79, a resolution supporting the Rural Health Network grant proposal and memorandum of understanding. Is there a motion?
So move. Support.
Moved and supported. We will have discussion. I'd like to start off discussion. Usually I would not do that. Just to get a sense of, over the past couple of weeks, what's kind of going through my head and in terms of deliberation. Earlier this year, it came to my knowledge that the college was interested in lowering cost for their on-campus clinic and potentially improving services. And that could potentially loop in community members. But that was the kind of the rough sketch of what I knew could happen, and didn't hear anything else until recently. From what I've talked to people about and checked on, it seems that there is a process going on with the college for them to make a determination between the health system that they would choose to operate their campus clinic. And so that's a process with, I guess, a private entity. What we're discussing now is a question for the establishment of a network with the publicly stated purpose of being inclusive, giving the community enough time, a year amount of time, to do the research, see what elements or issues exist in the community, and to loop in all partners. But the concern that I have, and I think it kind of leaked out in some of the comments, is, for me, is how open that process will be. If we have already determined that, I guess the frame of the process will only include Calhoun County partners, that basically has set an initial limit on the process. At the last meeting, I know council members had asked, well, the last time this was discussed, I know there were several questions from council regarding had any attempt been made to reach out to Henry Ford? And the answer was no, and there was also a further explanation that because of the holidays, that was not possible. Dr. King is here in the meeting, and I don't think that given the influence of the partners in the network, that it would have been hard to do that. So one of the concerns that I have is, in reading citizens' comments and on social media, phone calls, email, is a narrative regarding there's $100,000 to get an urgent care facility in Albion. And that's not necessarily the case. This is $100,000 to go through a planning process. So the shape of what that health entity looks like, it may not look like a community health center, which is geared towards low-income individuals, people who utilize Medicaid. It may not look like that. It may or may not look like an urgent care. So I think that that's one thing we have to look at is that was not what was being presented to council. It was $100,000 for a planning grant. The concern that I have is that earlier I mentioned that the process that one of the partners to this agreement is going through to select a supplier for health services for the campus is in the background of the issue. And so one of the concerns that I had was if in this year-long process the decision was made by the college to partner with either, whether it's Henry Ford or Oaklawn, what effect that would have on the voices from the community that are taking part in an open and inclusive process in a year-long process. The concern that I have, I've heard residents speak to this, is that some Albion residents utilize resources at Oaklawn, some utilize resources at Henry Ford. And so as mayor, I think it's only fair to ask for a process that's fair and actually includes a level of involvement from both entities. One of the things that I asked for at the meeting was on the back of what we're being asked to approve a resolution to authorize the manager to sign a memorandum of agreement. And usually when we approve things like this, we will approve a letter of support. So this is a little stronger. And my question was, why did we not ask Henry Ford to be involved, to be a signatory to that process? And that was the major concern that I had, because people can be invited to a process, but if they're not at the table in an official way, then it really limits the options of residents. So the takeaway for me basically is that if we're publicly saying we want an inclusive process, it has to be inclusive, because from what I'm hearing tonight is that only one health system will be looped into the process from a signatory perspective. And that's a concern. So I'm going to kind of step away right now, allow council members to have their comments, but I think it's important to make sure that, unlike, I guess, an education system where some people have pupils, some do not, health affects everyone. And it's important that we make the best decision, because Albion does have a history of unfortunate healthcare or loss of access to healthcare. So we have to make sure that from the city's perspective, if we're being asked to sign on it, that we are doing things that take into account all residents. So with that, I'm gonna, Mr. Barnes. Councilmember Barnes.
My research on the situation has been, this is something that the citizens in a survey, and not everyone receives the survey all the time, depends on where they are. There were surveys done by Chris Farmer some years ago when he was identifying issues in the city of Albion that we needed health care. I just looked at that paperwork before I left home. We know we need urgent care in Albion. We know we need those medical facilities here, period. My concern has to start with our city manager, Cheryl. She's the captain of the ship. She was hired to direct the city. She has been the professional at this table during the hearings. It may have only been a couple weeks. She may have just attended one meeting. However, she had her associate, her office, go through the grant, and they discussed it. Second, I've been with her here 2 years as a member of council, and she's received glowing remarks in her evaluations every time. This application was proposed to the council by Cheryl with the best interests of the citizens of Albion being involved. And she will continue to get a vote of confidence from me as a voting member of this council. Finally, Cheryl put out packets with this application for recommendation with all the information that was necessary to make a knowledgeable decision at that time. Today, that information in that packet is discussing a planning grant trying to attract $100,000 so the people in the region who had latched on just at this time could start communicating at the table concerning ideas and concepts. It was not closed-ended that no one else could come. There was a timeline of a deadline that had to be met. So it only made sense to capture people closest to you that you could get the grant started. I feel the cart in our boat was kind of put before the horse. I feel that people were voting personality, not the issue. And I'm just going to be very honest and frank. Any attempt to alienate Albion College and white people will be futile. This is a situation where we must vote the issue and not try to alienate people that you may think in the past have not brought the city or your neighborhood into context. Therefore, again, I will ask that this council support this planning grant application.
So, point of privilege, I respect, just one second, I respect what you're saying. I don't know what to say to that, but, yikes. Councilmember Reed, I'm sorry.
I say to the people, our last Monday's meeting, I don't think it was a matter of not wanting to have a health center here. We want to have a health center here too. It was some things that we had issues about that we were questioning why couldn't it be? And we were being told because we don't have time to do it. One of the issues I asked about was the fact that why was not more than just Oakland invited in to the table for discussion as to what, okay? And then we were told, well, since it's got to be signed by January 3rd, we don't have time. But as we can see, where there's a will, there's a way. We do have somebody here from another entity who is having, has said that they would be willing to work along with us. Okay, the next thing I was thinking, I said, you've got different hospitals do different things. different medical centers do different things. Some might be doing more research in cancer than they're doing in diabetes and like that. And so the more people you get to the table that's informed on whatever it is that's happening, the better off you're going to be. Because if you get people from different areas who have researched and have different thoughts about things, then that's going to help. I appreciate Dr. Dobbins and what he said, because he has definitely tried to be fair with us on everything. He has tried to lay it right out there so that there's nothing hiding behind the corners anywhere, and I do appreciate that. Now, I don't know about what's being said over here, but what I say is, I see now on the paper that we got now, we have more explanation as to other people coming in. I like to see things in black and white. I like to see it with your name signed to it so that I know that what we've agreed on, we've agreed on. And talking to others, and they said, oh, well, other people can come in on it, you know, later on in this and that. Show it to me in writing. You give it to me in writing to where I can go back and say, oh, but you said that right here in section so-and-so. Then I got something that I can go by. And so this is what I'm saying. It's not a matter of not wanting to vote. It's a matter of lay it out here like it ought to be, or like it's going to be, so that everybody is aware of what's going on.
Councilmember
I
Brown.
want it here.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes, let me start by saying, I think everyone in this room wants an urgent care facility, a healthcare facility here in Albion. We all recognize the need. Dr. Dobbins, I don't know where you are, but the more I hear you speak, the more my respect for you grows. Your comments were you spoke from a very truthful place, and I've just appreciated your transparency. Like I said, the more I hear you talk, the more I like you. So, I have to say this. Last week at the meeting, one of the concerns I expressed was not having all interested parties at the table prior to submitting this grant. At the time, there were 2 weeks before the grant's deadline. Now we're down to a week. You know, I've read through the narrative, I've read through all the material, and I have to say, when we represent the city of Albion, and it is very clear that both Oaklawn and Henry Ford Allegiance have a presence here in Albion, and they treat residents here in Albion. I recognize Oaklawn is a little closer, but you still have residents here in Albion who choose to utilize Henry Ford Allegiance. I could not wrap my mind around why Allegiance was not at least contacted to see if there was an interest on their behalf coming to the table prior to the grant submission. I don't even know if that's happened. I don't know if anybody's even reached out to them yet, even after our meeting last week and the concerns that we expressed. I cannot in good faith sit here and say I'm comfortable with what I feel is giving Oaklawn an advantage and an opportunity to partner with Albion College to bring a facility here for Albion's residents, when we know that we have residents that are serviced by both facilities. So I don't know if someone wants to speak to that, or maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's some information I don't have. Maybe Henry Ford Allegiance was offered an opportunity and declined. I don't know. I still think there's time. There's still time on the clock. You know, one of the thoughts that come to my mind, and then I'll stop, I can invite you to my table once I fix my dinner, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna share a piece of my pie with you. So I think it's important to bring everyone in to set the table when we talk about planning what healthcare in Albion looks like.
Are there any council comments before I have a comment? Okay. Oh, the manager. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Law.
As I had stated before, I'm glad that a lot of people showed up today. The last meeting we had about this, I felt like I did not have enough information. We can go back and forth about how much time I had or how much time I didn't have, but if I say I didn't have enough time, I didn't have enough time. So that part to me is debatable, and I won't debate about it. I did say no to the grant. I reached out to 15 people, one through email, one through Facebook, 5 in my precinct, and 7 outside of my precinct. And when I began to tell them my situation and what I thought, they began to understand where I was coming from. And they told me, if you can, any possible way, get Oakline and Henry Ford together to see who can provide the best service for us. I said I would, and I definitely will keep my word on it. We do have residents here that are of Henry Ford physicians, and we do have some of Oakline physicians. So I'd like to see them both at the table and partner in some kind of way. Whatever one facility can't do, another facility may be able to do. We do a lot of things behind closed doors that we don't bring to the forefront. And I really think honesty, transparency is really a key to getting things done in Albion. And that allows us to work together and become one. So as I prayed over this last night, I was instructed to read it over again. And I did read it over again. And the things that I had talked to the representative from Star Commonwealth, it was in here. I was happy about that, and I thank him for that, giving me some extra time of himself away from his family at Christmas time. The holidays were coming up, so I do thank you for that. Another point that I when I began to read this, a lot of things stood out as Oakline this, Oakline that, Oakline, Oakline, Oakline. I seen Henry Ford in here 3 times. And one of the times was how far they were away, and the other 2 times were they haven't been brought to the table yet. So I would love to see Henry Ford come to the table. If this grant is about Oakline, if this grant is about Oakline, say it's about Oakline. If it's not just about Oakline, don't be honest with the people. And that's all I ask anybody in the city of Albion to do. Be honest with the people, let them know what you're doing. When you find out something, bring it to the forefront. If you, I think I talked to the representative and I said, if you knew the grant, you sought the grant in November, I felt like he should have been having special meetings. We had so many special meetings in November, it was crazy. But we could have been having more on this issue right here. And it wouldn't have just seemed like it was just so dishonest. It wouldn't have seemed like it was just so rushed or anything like that. But as I said before, the people really, really like Henry Ford, and I'm really asking that we sit down and talk to them and see what they have to offer, because I know they have something to offer. I know they do. So with that being said, I thank you again, Shane, for sitting down with me.
Okay. Dr. Witcher.
Mayor and council,
Go ahead. She had.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Mayor and council, if I could take a moment to just summarize the grant. This is a one-year, $100,000 planning grant for the period of June 1, 2017 through May 30th, 2018. The grant notice was issued on November 2nd of this year. The grant application deadline for submission is January 3rd. And as you recall, I was first notified of this on, I believe it was December 3rd. And there was a meeting that week, which was the first meeting in which I was in attendance, and you were notified on December 8th with a summary of the participants and what was being proposed. The changes since your prior meeting have been the addition of one organization, the Albion Community Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, has been added to the network. So I think it already reflects that there's opportunities for additional partners to be a participant in the planning process. And it's exciting that we did have pushback, and it was clearly demonstrated that concerns are being heard and they are incorporated into the documents that are before you today. And specifically on page 16 in the narrative, it reads, the network will welcome the participation of other local entities as the network forms over the course of the planning grant period. For example, dental and eye care providers in the local community, as well as Henry Ford Allegiance Family Medical Clinic in Albion, have not yet been a part of the network planning conversations. That same phrasing is also represented in the resolution that's before you, so there's an acknowledgement that they are not at the table yet, but they are definitely invited and welcomed. So I want to thank STAR for making certain that that language and your concerns are represented in what's before you. And Dr. King, thank you again for coming here today. So I think it's important. I spoke with Dr. Ditzler last week in regards to, he had been approached by some of our elected officials about the possibility of approaching Henry Ford Allegiance themselves. But what I have not heard from Dr. King or anyone is if Henry Ford Allegiance board has met in regards to participation, or if the president CEO has granted authority for participation should that opportunity become available. And I would imagine if that were in place, we would have heard that as part of the presentation. But that does not mean that there is not interest and there's not an opportunity, and we need to do what we can to make certain that those conversations are fully engaging and the partnership that is best for our community and our larger community is formed. So what's before you is the opportunity to participate in the planning, and with the understanding that all of the partners are not yet seated.
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the comments, the historical lesson information that was shared, and I appreciate your presence here as well. When this planning grant was initially brought to council's attention, and I'm speaking for me only, I felt rushed to make a decision without sufficient information. I had concern with regard to the content of the grant proposal. I also felt that a little uneasiness with regard to lack of council/mayor representation during the planning process. And I also had an issue with transparency. Those issues were subsequently alleviated in my meeting with one of the the grant participants. I made myself available, and he made himself available to speak and seek out information that I felt I needed to make an informed and educated decision for the community of Albion. During the election process, I made a pledge to my constituents that if elected, I would seek out and take advantage of opportunities to explore an urgent care facility in our community. I believe this grant proposal provides such. I initially did not support this grant proposal for the reasons previously stated. I have and am now satisfied with the information and answers that I received, and my concerns have been alleviated and addressed. I now have a change of opinion and attitude with regard to the Rural Healthcare Network Planning Grant and with regard to the memorandum for the Albion community. And I thank you for your attention and time.
Thank you. Are there any other council comments? So I have a couple of questions, and I don't know, are you designated to answer questions?
We can share that.
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay, so a couple of questions. In terms of how the grant came about, to your knowledge, did Oakland approach Star, or did Star approach Oakland?
Privilege.
So,
Okay.
do you want me to wait, or? Okay. Actually, this came about because Star Commonwealth, in our own strategic planning process, is looking for ways that we can bring additional dollars to the communities where we serve and live. I was in Washington, D.C. this summer visiting the departments that typically oversee and fund the kind of services that we do, and this opportunity became aware of a possibility that a new grant application would be released in November that would be for rural planning, rural community planning for healthcare. I got very excited about that, knowing that probably the eastern side of Calhoun County would qualify as rural. And we began our process of trying to figure out what did we think was going to be in that grant application process. I then brought that idea back to the team and said, you know, we may have an opportunity to apply for some funds to plan and see what we can do, but we didn't know until November, probably November 3rd, whether that was actually going to get released and then whether we qualified. That was the other piece we needed to do, was with the department, make sure that the region we're talking about would qualify under their rural health care. So it was Star Commonwealth who then began to talk to everybody that we talk to on a regular basis, and that includes certainly the city and the county and Summit Point and Oakland Hospital, as we're all engaged regularly with the college, trying to figure out how we serve and are advocates for our community. So that's how that came to be. This is absolutely not an effort driven by or purposeful by any one party. This was really Star seeing an opportunity and knowing that if we reached out and talked to people, there might be an opportunity to bring some resources to bring more people to the conversation.
So another question is, so I mentioned earlier there's another rail of proposals going on with the college. How might that affect this process?
You know, I am probably less aware of those conversations maybe than even you are, Mayor. We are not a part of or engaged at all with that conversation. So I know Shane has probably talked more with Dr. Ditzler and certainly with Oakland College about, or Oakland Hospital. In my view of how we will approach bringing this together, it has very little to do with what the full community, this full rural community needs. I know that Dr. Ditzler has talked about what he needs for the college community, and we weren't focused on the college when we were looking at this. We were focused on the full rural community and making sure that we sat down and had some strategic planning and had some resources available to figure out what was needed here. My guess is that whatever the college does is important for the college and for the community, but it doesn't need to derail or actually be an impediment to what our whole community needs to do. It may actually provide more ideas and more groups to be at the table. So it just wasn't a part of our original conversations at all.
Okay, and then, so if that's the case, what's the best argument why Henry Ford wasn't included.
Oh, so you can take that one, but I will also
Okay.
take some responsibility for that solely because in this time period, I have been extremely crunched. I'll just be as honest as some of you have said. I haven't had enough time to do all the things that are on Star Commonwealth's plate in the last couple of months. So we grabbed the people that were closest to us at the time and knew that we could have some conversations quickly and see if we could get an application in the federal time frame. If we missed it, it's gone.
So in a follow-up to that, to Shane, I'll let Shane answer this. So based on what the manager's saying, that Oaklawn's board had to approve them signing on to this?
I'm not sure that their board is approved to sign on to this. A lot of times, boards, depending on the leeway that they give their chief executive, because that's who's signing on to this, I believe it's Ginger Williams has signed on to this. They generally don't, boards don't have to generally deliberate on things like this related to the grant until something is awarded. So it's depending on if they want, the CEO or the executive director or a director of some department is able to sign on and say, oh, yep, we're totally interested in talking. Let's see if you get the grant. So I'm unaware that their board had to take any action. I want to second the proximity, the argument of proximity. I talked about this the last time I was here. This, again, no intentional exclusion of any provider or partner. There are several in the community. Again, Dr. Curtis represents yet another partner, not currently seated or mentioned in the table in the grant. But this is really about who we've currently worked with. I think I said we run with these folks last time. These are the people we've run with for several years, had goodwill relationships, again, the college, Oaklawn Hospital, Summit Point, et cetera. And again, they're all very complicated, right? Payer, payee, different types of setups. And so we continue to be very open to the network growing. Again, as we stated in the language, we're very open to the network growing, and again, partners who are sitting at the table should be bringing more options as we grow the network. This, something you'll notice in the grant is that it is a formative grant, so we're forming a network, and so we're given a lot of latitude to add and select and bring on people as we go. And again, some may self-select and say we don't want to be a part of it. We just won't know until we start the actual process.
Is STAR committed to there was some discussion about or mention of kind of a regional perspective? Is that what you're taking in this process?
Well, the confines of the grant, the confines of the federal grant is that it is part of a rural healthcare access network. Currently in Calhoun County, east of Marshall is what qualifies of that. And so Albion, being the largest entity along with the townships, qualify to be rural. And so when this money is brought to the community, it must be spent on things pertaining to this region. I think this is something I mentioned to Ms. Spicer and Ms. Lawler. This money can't be brought in and then subsequently sent out of the community. It has to be spent within the community, including any future grants that might be made available to this network. So again, one of the major sticking points to moving forward with this grant is that it must serve Albion, and again, it can't serve any one interest, Albion College or STARS or Summit Points or Oaklawn's or even Henry Ford's or anyone else's. It has to focus on this community and this population in this part of Calhoun County, because that's what the point of the grant is.
And if any of those entities are operating facilities in here, they would qualify for that then, right? So like if Summit was here or whatnot.
Absolutely, and in fact, if you look in the RFP, you could be outside of here and wanting to come in and be part, like let's say we didn't have any healthcare providers at all in Albion, like we were just an island of no healthcare. McLaren or Sparrow or any other network could say, I really want to go in and help this community get it right, and they could apply. We're fortunate that we have a wealth of resources in the community that exist who have relationships that could start this process.
So if that's the case, so basically what I'm hearing tentatively is we might not need if Henry Ford was interested, we wouldn't need potentially a board approval or motion for that. An entity outside of Albion who was willing to establish operations in the community to service the community could be eligible for it. So I'm still trying to understand why Henry Ford cannot be, or
there's again been no statement that Henry Ford cannot be. I think that part of your concern is that there is some sort of insidious, purposeful way of leaving a partner out of the table, and I think that Star Commonwealth and the partners in front of you who presented this grant have addressed that concern comprehensively in stating that this is a grant based to grow and form a network in this community to serve all residents. So if it is the concern of the council and the city that there be more partners added to the network, I urge them to vote yes to take a seat at the table with this grant and work on that with us, because that's what we're here to do tonight. We're here to vote on this and take a seat with the partners and say, this is what we need in our community. This is what I'm hearing in my district, and I want to make sure that I bring those concerns to the table, especially where they're going to have that conversation. And I think I speak for all Star Commonwealth and I say we're really excited about this opportunity. We are looking forward to the city's full participation if you vote this up, hopefully unanimously, and we're glad to have you at the table.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes, okay, I have a question. The Albion Community Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition have been added since the last meeting, correct?
Yeah, those conversations have been ongoing through the diversity committee, and we as these things unfold, we move to add them. Yes, and we've had a long-standing relationship with them.
So my next question, will they be signing the actual grant application upon its submission?
Yes, yes.
So go ahead. So a question.
Okay, I'm gonna be frank.
It's the way I like it, Sonia.
That's the way I am, Shane. Is there time to have a conversation with Henry Ford Allegiance about bringing them on to sign on to this grant prior to the January 3rd deadline?
I've answered this question to you in email. I'm
not clearly you did.
I said it's probably not practical timing to get an official on board from Henry Ford because they do not. I understand that you have asked the chief medical officer to be here this evening and that he's in the room. I don't know him, and I'm not aware that we have an official relationship with Henry Ford. We just don't. This grant, again, to go back to the original question, why isn't Henry Ford at the table currently in the grant, is because we don't currently work with them. We currently work with every partner listed in the grant in a meaningful way, and that's why they're here. And so that's why they're signatories at the moment. And again, in a formative network, Henry Ford could be there as the network grows, as guaranteed to you in the narrative. Okay. And we are beholden to the government to follow through on our narrative.
Just really quickly, I hope you, personalities aside, because I got mine, I didn't, way a long time ago. I hope you understand the concern with not having them on board or not at least reaching out to have a conversation with them, being that they do serve such a large part of Albion.
And I'm really glad that you are saying that, and as I encourage you to vote yes for this resolution, I'm encouraging you to bring that as part of what the City of Albion brings to the grant process. I think that your city manager, because if you vote yes, the city manager would sign this MOU on behalf of the city. I think that, again, as answering to the council, I think she should be, as part of the network, she should be working to make sure that we include all stakeholders, and that includes Henry Ford.
Okay, and then I have one more, am I out of line?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
I'm looking at the breakdown of the budget for the $100,000.
Yes.
Okay, and you mentioned bringing Henry Ford to the table after the fact. Like, once the grant is approved by the feds and the money's dispersed, this is the breakdown, right? Mm-hmm. So how do they get a piece of, or anybody?
So as you can see in the budget, the money isn't divvied up amongst the partners. The money is divvied up for tasks. In fact, almost the sole amount of the money comes to STAR as the fiduciary of the grant, because we are responsible for making sure the tasks happen. So we have to pay someone to coordinate the meetings and hold the meetings and facilitate the network. We have to pay for them to go to the support conference.
Wait,
Yes.
I'm sorry. So that's contractual services, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I got that. That part is STAR, correct?
Almost, the entirety of the grant is STAR.
That $30,000?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
and then there's 14.9 for personnel.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's
That's for me. As the grant
Okay.
I'm not getting an addition, I'm not getting any check. I'm only getting the check that Elizabeth gives me normally every 2 weeks. This is a normal part of grant making. Yeah. That money is because STAR is the holder of the grant. We have to manage the person who's actually doing it. We have to make sure the process is done, and we have to make sure that we evaluate it and report on it to the federal government. And that's my sole responsibility at STAR, is making sure that our grants and sponsorships and corporate relationships are appropriately handled, reported on, and legal at the end of the day.
Okay, and then there's 18,000 for other. What's other?
The $18,000 other, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's broken down into 2 sections. That's something called overhead. It is the federal indirect rate, I believe. Is that what it says?
It just says other.
It covers IT, HR, finance, all the back office pieces of ensuring that we meet all the criteria of the grant. It's what the federal government allows you.
There's actually 2 separate, now that I can see from here, there's 2 separate. So there's the federal indirect rate, which is which falls down under the 17.9% of the grant, which is 17.9, which is what Elizabeth is talking about. The other, if you flip a page back, you'll see the other is divided into about 3 different sections, and it comes down to room rentals, paying for people, like if we want to have forums in the community, paying for food and drink to make sure that citizens can come to those forums, paying for rental of spaces. And I also believe there is a printing expense in there. There are several different expenses related to the grant because we have to share with the public what the network is doing, and so we must print that and pay for that and make that available to the entire eastern part of Calhoun County.
Okay, let's keep going.
Sure.
Fringe benefits.
The fringe benefits, actually, the way the government has you break down your grant, they make you put your personnel cost, which is your direct salary rate, and then they make you put your fringe benefit, which falls into a different defined percentage of what you make. So the fringe benefit portion of the grant pays for the health insurance a very small piece of health insurance cost, regular life insurance cost, dental, and then also fringe, I believe, falls under short-term disability and other liabilities that the company or organization would face if something were to happen.
Okay, so we served together. You know how I am with numbers.
Yeah.
Help me. I'm counting like $21,000 for the personnel and fringe benefits for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the $18,000 for overhead, which about $8,900 of that is for the meeting costs, and then $10,000 for legal services.
Yep, the $10,000 is a 10% direct requirement of the, in fact, it actually comes in under what the federal government says we should put in there. So the federal government says that we need to have 20% built in for legal costs. We actually only built in 10%, which is 10,000 of 100,000. And legal costs, so if the network decides to become an entity or if the network needs to establish itself legally in any sort of way, that money has to pay for lawyers to do that. And what we've committed through the budget is that we all have lawyers who work for these various entities, right? And so we're only going to pay for 10% out of the grant instead of 20% because there will be some in-kind support from the organizations that are participating in the grant.
Okay, so Shane, what I'm seeing basically is when it comes down to actual planning the stuff, when you take out the personnel, the fringe benefits, the contractual services, I mean, that's over 54,000 right there. So the actual, how much of this money is actually going to pulling people together to do planning?
All of that money that you just said is actually paying for that. That contractual person is going to pool, that's their sole, I mean, that's 40% of their job. In the narrative, it defines that the network director will spend 40% of their paid time in their current position to pooling people together. I'm not sure how else I could answer the question for you.
I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you answering me the best you can. Okay,
I want to add that in creating this budget, we work with consultants, Keller, McIntyre in Washington, D.C., who work on Capitol Hill as their sole profession and advise organizations like ours in applying for opportunities like this, because they tend to get very complicated. Just in a very small request of $100,000, I think, as Joyce Spice was speaking to early, this is an incredible amount of work just for $100,000, and took a lot of time over the last 2 months just to get it together. And so these are what we would consider expert recommended numbers and figures for doing this work. In as far as being in line with other grantees, this probably exceeds probably a 5-star rating in financial management, because we have allocated so much of it to making sure that there's one person doing this work in the community over the year. In the original RFP, the call for proposals, it actually only requires that 20% of the network director's time be put into handling this network, and we've bumped that to 40%, because we at Star Commonwealth believe this is so important that we start having this conversation, that we have someone, almost half of their position is going to be spent pulling partners together at the table, talking to citizens, pulling together the data over the next year to make sure that we make the most well-informed decision in our community that we can bring back to our respective governments, whether that be the city council, the county government, the village of Homer, any of the surrounding townships that eventually join on as part of this grant period. We are doing, I think, an excellent job of being as transparent and open as we possibly can about the expenditures of this fund, and it's absolutely required based on getting federal dollars. They have to account for every penny, and if a penny changes, someone's going to ask questions.
So I have,
So, I guess the core of my concern is that if we approve this, and like you've said, your primary partner is Oakland, and we as elected officials know that there are residents who are serviced by other health systems, and we know that there is this process running here on the side with a major institution in town that has a critical mass of humans that would be attractive to health systems. My concern is that without including both health systems, we've put a thumb on the scale. And what we've said is we've given you a way to plan, and then that leaks over into the other process where if that other institution made a decision, there really wasn't I guess a fair process to begin with, because that would have such a major influence. And that's one of the things that in talking to the institution, I couldn't get a guarantee that there would be a decision to hold off to the end of the year-long process. So the question becomes, if originally the first copy of the memorandum of agreement that I received had a Section 3 was struck out. And Section 3 was basically asking partners not to seek the input of other health systems. That was removed because it was struck out. But the question is the concern that I have is for a process to be open, if a key player is involved with it and comes to the table initially with that stance, is that fair to the process? Because, if someone kind of shows me their intentions, even if they can't carry it out, what's to say? Because what we're approving right now, we're not approving a structure, we're not approving anything. So the city will be there, but there'll be other players. So the core of the thing is we have to remember, and I think other council members have stated this is serious, because health is serious, and so we cannot make decisions just by who we work with or who we're friendly with. We really have to have an open process that loops in another major provider of healthcare in our community. So
I want to, just before, I think Councilmember French has something to say, but before he says that, I think a couple things I want to say. I said, I'm going to say your concern and that of other council members is duly noted, and I think throughout this process, we've been transparent with you, even sharing those things that we originally had in the grant and now do not, or in an MOU and do not, and we intend to continue that. We can't on our own tonight stand up here and say, trust us. We're not going to do that. We believe we've shown through our actions and through our work, especially over the past couple weeks, that we are very open and very flexible in working with partners, and will continue to be. As far as the college is concerned, while STAR has a wonderful relationship with the college, and many of the partners do, they only are a certain piece of the population throughout an entire calendar year. So for 9 months of the year, there's a certain population of young, mostly insured individuals living in Albion. And when we think about a rural healthcare access network, while having that population here 9 months of the year is very nice and they're getting their education, it's a great thing, this grant is really about the entire system in Eastern County and the entire population. Because meanwhile, while many college students are favorably insured or overinsured or have two parents' insurances and can afford health care, we know every day, all of us sitting in this room, of a member of our family who has foregone a medication that they were prescribed by their doctor because they couldn't afford it. Or we know someone who isn't going for their annual checkups. Or we know someone whose blood pressure is completely unmonitored and needs to be seeing someone on a regular basis but does not have access, either because they don't have transportation, they don't have insurance, or there isn't a facility within 5 minutes of the place that they live. This grant is an opportunity for the city of Albion as an entity to take a very big seat at the table and have influence on how the trajectory of healthcare takes shape in our community. And that includes all partners that the city, that Summit Point, that Oaklawn, that all of the members of the network would like to include and invite to be part of the table. So I give you, I think I give Elizabeth as well, resounding assurance, and in black and white this evening, that we are open and we are willing to work with all partners, and we are extremely hopeful that the city of Albion will take their seat at the table and begin to do this work with us.
Councilmember French and then Councilmember Lawler. Thank you. Oh, it was Councilmember.
And I defer.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
I just want to say, again, when I looked at this grant and I seen about 17 words in here that I'm sure that Star Commonwealth will receive when saying things about Albion, like a financial struggle, poverty, poor health, living in poverty, low income, just low income population and at risk. And it's just amazing to me how we can come together and think about those people during healthcare, but during their really time of need, there is a entity, a nonprofit here that deals with these type of people, and I would hope that you would reach out to that, something maybe that the council can bring to the forefront to Star Commonwealth, which the name will be Double Vision, because they deal with these type of people on a day-to-day basis. So I'm hoping that we could also, if this goes through, one of the suggestions that the city would like to add to in just the planning process, as you say. I do see that the representative from Henry Ford is here, and I'd just like to ask, will you be having a discussion?
I'm sure there will be some networking happening after this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've had a very rich conversation and discussion, lots of concerns raised, and I appreciate all of them. I do think that we have a city that has lots of healthcare options around us, to the east and to the west and to the north and to the south. And I think that no matter what happens, what we're here to discuss and to vote on is a decision to move forward, to be innovative, and to put some of our worries and concerns and behind us and move forward in a positive way to bring health care to all. As a Director of Community Action and Special Assistant to the President at Albion College, I can assure the council and the citizens that the college is very much interested. My job is to connect the college with the community. We know that there are students at Albion who will need health care. And while we use both Eastern and Western healthcare providers to meet the needs of our students, the goal is to deliver health care to the community, which is why our president signed the memo of understanding. While he cannot promise that he won't make a decision or a decision won't be made about health care, the process of a decision about health care is not the president's or the vice president's to make. It is the vote of the faculty and the faculty committee related to salaries and benefits that will have to weigh in on that decision. And having been a faculty member for 20 years, I can tell you that that decision will not be quick. That they will do the same kind of deliberation that this council has done over the last 2 weeks, and they will extend it over at least a semester. So whether we promise or not, I think just given the timetable that we have for planning, that the city need not worry that we are going to leap ahead and say, nope, we're gonna separate ourselves and go in a different direction. Because we know that the resources to deliver health care to our citizens is minimized the more partners we bring in. So if the college were to open up a clinic just for college students and some folks in the community, we would be bearing the entire brunt of that. But if we bring in partner organizations like the city, like the county, like the villages, then the cost to each of those entities will be less. And that is a basic economic fact. And the college, just like any other business, for profit or non, has dollars in mind when it makes its decisions. So I would again vote, ask that you would support this signing of the memo of understanding, because it keeps the city at the table. Thank you.
Are there any other council member comments? Before we vote, I'll just say that again, I think we all want access to healthcare in Albion. If you go far back enough, the city actually ran the hospital here. And the concern that I have, again, is making sure that we do our due diligence in a fair way to all those involved, because there was a gentleman actually who's pretty well connected in the community. I won't mention his name. But when I spoke with him about it, he mentioned to me that because his insurance goes through his spouse, and she works with, I guess works at a competitor of Oaklawn, that their insurance, it was much more expensive to use even the two other health systems that were in competition with that health system. So just like Councilmember Lawler said, his concern was, well, yes, we need to do everything we can to have Henry Ford at the table and include them in the process. I think for me, there's a bit of fuzziness around what being at the table includes, because there are certain people who are asked to sign the document, and there's certain people who are saying we're going to loop in later. And so my concern is, if we're committed to that, and I said that earlier, if we're committed to an inclusive, open process, I think we should include people at the beginning and not as an afterthought. I think people's health and access to health is important, and I think we really ultimately, I'll say this and be done, we're speaking for the city, we're trying to do our due diligence. I don't think anyone else, even in your personal lives, who make decisions rashly and don't weigh different options. So I think a process that, has a key player and not another key player raises concerns. So whatever the vote is, I hope we can go forward, but I hope that we're not overlooking the portion of our community that might not, utilize those other signatories to the grant. And that's a major concern. So if there are no other...
I have a question.
Oh, Councilman Barnes.
From what I've been hearing, for me, I want the public to know and all the entities involved to know that I'm hoping you don't see this as some type of situation where you would even consider not coming to Albion to try to work with this council. I want you to stay objective and open-minded. This was just a process, and it did come back to the table, so I want this council to have the perception of being inviting for you to come to us. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, we're going to have a roll call on the resolution to approve the Rural Health Grant proposal and the memorandum of understanding. Have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
No.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
No. Thank you all for waiting. There are no absent council members. We'll move on to citizens' comments. If there are any citizens' comments, if you're addressing the city council, we ask you to limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Proper decorum is required. Are there any general citizens' comments?
Vivian Davis, 901 Huntington Boulevard. I would like to just say thank you to the members who are willing to listen to the citizens, members who are willing to listen to experts. You know, we have doctors, we have people who have a lot of history in terms of health care, providing health care for the total community. I like what Mr. French said regarding moving forward. You know, we have our skepticism, so to speak, but if we're willing to listen and be receptive, and at least work, you know, and those, I think, who are skeptical, hopefully with our city manager, that's an open channel of communication for the council to ask questions, to get involved, and to probably attend a lot of meetings that are going to come up. But just to say thank you for having an open mind, a spirit of being willing to listen and look at the entire community in terms of the possibilities, because there are great possibilities here, and I think this was one of them. I was really frightened the last time to know that we may forego the possibility, but my appreciation to you, and hopefully we can continue to move forward. Thank you.
Oh, did you state your name and address? You did.
I did.
Okay.
Yes. I'd just like to say, I don't think it's because we're not listening. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm just going. Were there any other citizens' comments?
Elizabeth Carey. I'm going to use 13725 Star Commonwealth Road as my address because I'm representing Star today, although I am a Jackson City resident. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to spend the last couple of weeks talking about this and engaging with you, and I'm really looking forward to what this community can do together in a planning process. So I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity.
Mike Behrman, 11016 29 Mile Road, County Commissioner. I'm here to thank you for your vote tonight. Thank you for expanding the eastern Calhoun County, that we can do a lot more in this area for medical services and be able to service all the people on the east side of the county. Thank you.
Ray King again, 3824 Guest Road in Jackson. Just to answer a couple questions that came up, we did learn about this last Thursday, so didn't really have time to prepare for this. We are very interested in working with the community. We're already in the community. We take care of underserved. We may not be in the best location. Transportation may be a problem, but we already take care of the underserved and others in this community. We are also, to speak to some comments of Dr. Curtis, we will have in January level 2 trauma verification. We'll be the closest health system for trauma, acute myocardial infarction, stroke. Your other closest centers that can handle these acute problems are Kalamazoo, Lansing, and Ann Arbor for these things where minutes do count. And so, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and please, we welcome to continue to be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh. Okay.
I would like to thank the council for its actions and to remind all of us that the resolution in effect is one which brings the council into the planning process. You are now completely in the planning process. This is the essence of what you were deciding. And it will be for your continuing interest to ask serious questions and to hope that things will shape up in the best interests of the citizens of Albion.
Thank you very much. Dr. Curtis had a perfect ending, but of course I had to add my little 2-cent word. It was almost like deja vu, hearing you talk, because that's the same process we went through with. Sonia, there's no money that's going to come to this community with that planning grant. Every dime is going to be spent on that planning. And that's what that proposal shows you. And the federal government, they don't play. They absolutely require that you spend every dime where you say you spent it at, and they want every I dotted and every T crossed. I promise you that. And it's a lot of work, and for you all to take that on, it's for our community. That's a great attribute, and it's we need to congratulate you for willing to fight this battle, because Albion needs that. And I thank the council for supporting this, because I tried a long time to bring health care to this community with the Federal Qualified Health Center, with the Wellness Center at the high school. And when I saw this, it just made my heart like, okay, here's another opportunity, because that's what we need. We all need to look out for each other. And that's the only people that they have here to represent them is you. And if you make that decision to move forward with this process, then our community will be better. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Sheila Lyons Sabaski. I'm at 1433 East Michigan in Sheridan Township. And I just wanted to say thank you to the council and mayor. I think that this is a great opportunity to be at the table. Again, just reiterating what others have said. I'm not a resident of Albion, but I live very close to Albion, and I work here, and my husband does too, and I think this is a great opportunity to be at the table. I mean, this is just a planning grant. We don't even have the money. But without applying for a grant, you don't get money. And so this is really a great opportunity. So thank you.
Are there any other citizen comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and supported. We will have a voice vote for that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned.